Hello, I'm Andre. Welcome to my craft room. Today we're going to do stepping stones. I'm first going to go over all the products that you're going to need, and I will list those also on our Facebook site that's for our class, that's Andre's Art and Crafts. First thing that you're going to need if you're going to do stepping stones is you're going to need the cement product. And this I bought at, whoops, there, I hope you can see it, at Hobby Lobby. I've also seen it on Amazon, so I will try to link those for you. Going to need something to cover your face, a mask to make sure you don't get any cement dust in your lungs or in your eyes. You're going to want to make sure you wear goggles, and I also wear gloves. You're going to need molds that you're going to pour the cement into to make your stepping stones, and I have a few ideas here. This is just a plastic Tupperware dish, and it's probably actually Rubbermaid, but it's a nice square, and you could make several of these and put them in your lawn or through your garden to make a cute path. There. This is the lid to a carry-out dish that I had, and when I saw it I thought, oh wow, this is really cute. It's a nice size, it's plastic, but it's got some fluted edges on it, and I thought that would make a really cute mold as well. Or a form. I call them molds and forms. This is a cake pan that I got at the Dollar Tree. It's a nice size for children to work with. And it's something that I'm never going to take back into my kitchen. When I work with anything in my craft room that has chemicals like cement or resin or anything like that, I never take them back into my kitchen. You can also use plastic molds that come inside kits. What I don't like about them is that they're really, really thin. I like to come up with my own molds, but if you do buy a kit or you buy a mold or a form at Hobby Lobby, they're going to be thinner. You're always going to make sure that you strengthen them by putting wire in them, and I will show you what I have here. This is wire that I bought at Home Depot. I like this wire because it's easy to cut, and I like the squares. You can also use chicken wire, and then it will go in our cement. So we'll put some cement in our mold or our form, and then we'll put in the wire, and then we'll put some more cement on top of it. And I'll show you how to cut these. Alright, then you are going to need something to decorate your stones with, and I have a huge variety of things here. I hope you can see them. I think I'm going to turn the camera down. There we go. Okay, so what I have here is I have a variety of stones and pebbles and glass and things that I use to decorate different projects in my craft room. And I like putting it all in a big tub because then I'll put the lid on and store it. What I have is I have some little pebbles, and I have sea glass. I love sea glass. You can find all of these things, all the pebbles and things, you can find them at Hobby Lobby, Michael's. You can find them at Walmart and Home Depot in the floral section. And so this is a nice little piece of clear sea glass. And I love, this is a blue piece. And I've got some larger pebbles. And I'm going to take some pictures of some stepping stones in my yard so you can see. I have one out there that's got pebbles in it, and it's just really, really pretty. I have a lot of these glass beads, These are the beads that you buy to put into vases. And you can get these, excuse me, you can get these anywhere that you can buy floral stuff. Okay, now the glass that I have, this is from buying plates at the dollar store, and then I take them and I just put them inside of an old towel that I'm never going to use again, and I whack them really hard with a mallet like this. But you can use a hammer. Make sure you have goggles on when you do that. And I'm going to show a picture of my grandchildren, all of them wearing goggles. And this was a project that I did with them about 12 years ago where we did stepping stones. And we went to the dollar store and bought plates and mashed them and made some really cute stepping stones. You're going to want to get something that you can put water in to spray your stepping stones with. Reason being is you want the cement to cure slowly, and if you keep the top surface of it damp, then it'll start curing from the inside out, and that makes a stronger stepping stone. You're going to want to get some contact paper, and this one says peel and stick. And why I get this is I like to be able to have something sticky that I can do my patterns on ahead of time, and that way when I have poured my cement in my form or my mold, then I already have the pattern laid out, and I usually am going to have to move it around, so if it's on something sticky, then the pattern is going to stay there, and all I have to do is to pluck off my little pebbles or my little glass beads to put them in the cement. This one that I've done, I'm starting to lose some hair here, I did for children to do, and it's just pebbles making a smile and blue, the little glass beads, and a glass bead for the nose. And then I thought this would be really cute. This is just a shell that I happen to have, and I thought it would make a cute nose, so it's going to go right like that. Then I'm going to do another one that I'm going to do that is going to have flowers on it. I'll pull this over so you can see. And it's going to have the little glass beads, and then I've got some leaves that I have done using the sea glass. There we go. And then I've got another little spray over here that I've used several pieces of sea glass. Now you can also use glass off of the plates that you've mashed from the dollar store, and this happens to be a little green plate, and it'll make some nice little green leaves as well. There we go. So let's get started. I'm going to get my table all cleared off here. I will tell you that today I'm working in my craft room, which is not the best place to do any kind of a cement project. I do a lot of them in my craft room, but I'm very careful to make sure that I've got plastic on the floor, and I always open a window so that I have really good ventilation. Generally, you should do cement projects outside in your garage or outside on your patio, someplace where you have good ventilation. Today we're going to do them in here because it's hot and we have a lot of smoke outside from some wildfires up in our mountains right now. So I will see you back here in just a few minutes after I get my table all set up, and we'll talk about mixing our cement. All right, we are ready now to mix up our batches of cement. And our recipe is 4 cups of cement to 2 cups of water. And I always like to add water to my bucket, or here I'm using a wash basin, I like to add the water first, and I'm adding about a cup of water, and then I am going to add my cement to it, and I'm adding 1 cup of cement. Then that's going to mix in nicely. If you do it the other way around, sometimes you can get dry pockets of cement stuck in the corners and things, but if you put the water in first, it just really works better. You could mix, all of the cement up at once, but I want to do small batches. And for this particular project, we're going to need 4 small batches. If we're doing a larger project of some kind, then you can double or triple the recipe of 4 cups of cement mix to 2 cups of water. I'll tell you ahead of time, you may have a little bit of water left over from that 2 cups, and don't worry about it, because what you're really looking for is you're looking for a particular consistency. And so you can add more water, or it may not take as much water. Here it's really thick, so I do know I'm going to have to add more water. And you'll notice that I'm doing a voiceover. The reason being is because I had so much background noise the last time that you could hardly hear my instruction. I had the scraping of the trowel and the cement together in the tub, and that was loud. And I had neighborhood dogs along with my dogs barking. And then I have little birds, and they were going crazy. So I'm doing a voiceover. And I'll tell you ahead of time, this is only my 2nd YouTube video, and I have a tendency to stammer every once in a while anyhow, and I noticed that doing this voiceover, I tend to do that. What I'm doing when I'm mixing is that I am looking for the consistency of like a brownie mix batter. I'm looking to where when I mix my cement and I run my trowel through it, I can see the trowel marks and they're not flattening out. You're still going to see fluid rising to the surface, but that's okay. As the cement cures, it's going to do that anyway. This looks like I've got it just to the consistency that I like. And you'll see I have just a teeny tiny little bit of water left out of that 2 cups. Now I'm going to be ready to oil my mold, and I oil it with vegetable oil, and that's so that the stepping stone will release easily from the mold. But you can also use, I've heard of people using Vaseline. You could do that, and also the Pam spray. But I've always used vegetable oil. It's just what I want to use, but you can use whatever you want to, as long as it's going to lubricate all around the inside of your mold so that the cement will release and your stepping stone will come out nicely. I had put a lot of oil in my mold, so I had to pour some back. I'm using a little rubber brush to go around and make sure that all the fluted edges of this little mold, that I got plenty of oil in all of the little fluted area. Now I have poured it into my mold, and it's filled up just halfway. And that's going to be perfect because we're going to put the screen that I had cut, we're going to put it over what we have in our mold right now. See, I'm tapping it so some of that fluid rises to the top. And now I'm going to put my screen in, and I'm just going to lay it right on the top of this particular batch that we've put into our mold. And I'm going to start mixing another batch. I apologize. We have so much smoke in the air that I am getting really hoarse. And of course, it's because we've got smoke from forest fires and we have smokes from California.
So I'm not sure how many cups of cement that I have poured in and that I've mixed yet. So I'm going to take this time to kind of talk about what to do with our cement that we have left over when we're doing projects. You never want to rinse out cement into the sink. Never want to get it in your plumbing at all because it will sink to the bottom of a pipe and it will clog it up. So, and it'll cure, I mean, cement will cure inside your plumbing. So what you'll want to do is I pour any excess cement that I have, I pour it into something that I can let it cure, and then I just put it in the trash. You could put it in a empty milk carton or coffee can, something like that. Let it sit and cure, and then put it in your trash. You're going to want to then take your tools and you're going to take them outside because again, I said don't rinse them out in your sink. And so I usually take my tools, my basin or my bucket if I'm using a bucket. I take it out to a rocky area in my yard. I don't wash them off over the lawn because it will kill the lawn and it may pollute the soil there bad enough that nothing will grow back. So just rinsing it out over rocks works really well. If you live in an apartment, you don't have a hose outside that you can do that. You can also just take a lot of wet paper towels after you have poured your excess cement into something, and you can wipe off your tools. You're maybe going to still have some residue left on them, but as long as it's not real thick residue that's going to be able to chip off into the next batch of cement that you make when you do another project, that's okay. I'm not sure how many cups of cement that we have mixed already here, but that's way thick, so I do know we're going to have to add water. And again, we're looking for those trowel marks. And the cement won't flatten out. You'll know that it's a good cement. And then I'm going around and making sure I don't have any clumps at all. And I still want it to have a real nice fluid feel to it, but have those trowel marks stay. And I know it's a nice strong cement. And we'll be ready to pour this over the top of the screen that we have that's in our mold already. And when we pour it over the top, we're going to take our trowel and we're going to just carefully, without pushing that screen down, we are going to mix the two batches of cement together and they will fold right into each other. And then I'm going to add a little bit more to the top here, and we'll probably do the same thing. And we are going to tap it a little bit, and you'll see the moisture kind of coming to the top. And I'm not mixing this in as much. I did mix enough to get those two batches mixed together. Now we're going to get ready to do the second pan, and that's the one that we're going to put a cute little smiley face in. And again, I'm using vegetable oil and my little rubber brush. And we have a little bit of cement left over from our first mold. I'm not sure that's going to be enough to fill up this pan, so we will be mixing up another batch. But we'll probably have enough that we'll be able to put our screen in it, and then we'll mix that last batch up. And I like the cement still. It's just a really nice consistency. It looked like I had a lump. You've got to be careful because those lumps can cause pockets in your stepping stone that kind of compromises the strength. So I'm mixing now my third batch, I believe is what I'm doing. Yeah, I did 2, and then this will be my third batch. And we will be ready here in a bit to add a screen. And into this little pan, we're just going to cut a little triangle out of the screen and put it in the middle, just like we did in our other pan or our other mold. And then we'll let both of these molds then sit and cure. And I like to let them cure for about 24 hours. 48 hours is probably the best, but these are pretty thin molds, so they should cure or almost cure in 24 hours. You're not going to want to step on them for several hours, and I'm going to say even 72 hours, because cement takes a long time to cure, and you might think it looks dry, but it's still in its curing process. So here is the screen that we're going to need to put in the center of this pan or our mold that we're doing. I say pan, mold, sometimes I say form, but you'll know they're all the same. These little tiny clippers that I got at the electrical department at Home Depot. You can also find little wire clippers at Hobby Lobby or Michael's in the jewelry section. I like to get little tiny clippers. They fit in my hand better, and if you're doing a ton of wire work and you're clipping a lot of wire, having little clippers that fit in your hand are much better than the great big clippers because your hand is going to get sore. When we do our angel that we're going to do closer to Christmas, we'll be cutting a whole lot of wire. And again, it's going to be a cement project, and it'll be something that we can put in our yard. And so I'm looking forward to that. I'm anxious to get started on some holiday stuff. And we'll start doing some things. Probably this next video, I'm going to do some fall yard art. And we will use a little bit of cement or grout on one of ours, but most of it is going to be, we'll be using glue to put our fall art together. That's all I'm going to tell you. So here I'm mixing again, and I'm getting the cement just folded into the batch that was already in my pan or what I'm using as a mold. You'll see that there's a lot of fluid rising to the top of our first mold, and it's going to start doing that to our second mold. That is the cement curing, and we're going to let these sit here for about 15 minutes, and then we're going to come back and start doing our project and putting all of our pebbles on the smiley face and our design on the big larger one that we're doing. So now we are ready, and we're going to start putting the pebbles on our little face first. This is now something that you could do with your children. And be very, very careful though. Cement and children can be a disaster. So it's something that needs to be heavily, heavily supervised, because you don't want them to get cement on themselves or cement definitely not in their eyes, and you don't want them to inhale or taste any cement. And kids will do the strangest things. They'll taste things that you would think they would never ever do. So what you could probably do is have them hand you the pebbles, and then you can place them. Or they could carefully drop them on, and we're going to take a popsicle stick to rearrange our pebbles here in a bit. And I'm using little blonde colored pebbles because this is going to be a little blonde-headed smiley face, and I've got blue eyes. That's my grandchildren, blonde hair and blue eyes. But if your child has brown hair and brown eyes, you could find stones that color, or you could find maybe some of these little glass beads in those colors. Just, look at in your floral department, any place they have florals. And that's going to be good. Let's see. I've seen some of these stones at Goodwill. People have bought a ton of them and then they've taken them to Goodwill. But you'll be able to find some at any place they have a floral department, like Hobby Lobby or Michael's, or even I have seen them in the plant department of Home Depot. Now I've rearranged my stones a little bit with a popsicle stick. And they're sitting on the surface, and that's what I want them to do. I don't want them to sink way in. And if they do sink in, you can just put another pebble over the top. And then if they haven't sunk in enough that they won't stay stuck to the stone, you're going to be able to glue them on with a heavy-duty glue, and I'll talk about that later. So our little smiley face, looks like we've got him all done. And I just think this is so cute for children. Now we're ready to start on our second mold. And what I did was I wanted to put a heart in the middle of it. And I decided the best way to do that was to cut a mold out of a piece of paper towel. And this paper towel that I have is automotive paper towel, and it's very, very strong. So you can find it at the automotive stores. I find it at Home Depot. The reason I cut the heart out is that I have a tendency to just want to get something done really fast, and I might take a tool and go to my stepping stone here and just try to put a heart in really fast. Well, then I'm probably going to be unhappy with it because it's not going to be the same dimensions on both sides or something. But this works really well. This is a nice mold. You can also cut out crosses and do crosses on some of your molds. Any pattern that you want in your mold, you can cut it out first with a paper towel. Now I'm spraying the top, and I'm going to go back over with my tool, and the tool that I'm using is the top of a paintbrush, and you'll see that it's nice and fluid now. The water has kind of gone down into the little trench area that I've made with my tool. And I want to come back around, and I don't want to go down much more than 1/4 of an inch, if that. So somewhere between 1/6 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch. If you go too deep, you're going to disturb the screen that's in there. Then I'm going to go ahead and start putting my stems on. And notice I sprayed water on the top again. That's going to make a nice fluid area for me to run my tool across. And this first flower, we're putting red petals on it, and these are little glass beads. And I have painted the back side of these beads with a little bit of red paint. And the reason that I've done that is because I want the red to be nice and bright. And since they're glass beads and they're clear, if you don't paint the back of them with red paint, when you put them on the cement, they're going to look a little cloudy. And so I did this where I painted the back of these glass beads red, and then we're going to be using sea glass for the leaves, and I painted the back side of the sea glass with green paint, and it's just a little art paint that you can get. And we're going to have just 2 leaves on this stem that I put in. And then on the other side, we're going to do a stem with kind of a spray of leaves on it and 1 little red bud. You want to, in your mind, think about how do I want to balance the design on my stone. And that's why I like to do these the designs for the molds first on the contact paper, so I can get everything stuck and I can play around with it until I get my design just like I want it. And the design on the contact paper was I just traced around what I was using for the molds, and I went ahead and drew the design on with a black Sharpie. All right, we have it all ready, except we need our little bud. So our flowers are all ready. Then we're going to need to put an initial in. So you can put your initial in the center of it. Also, what I'll tell you here is to really think about the size of the initial you want ahead of time. You want to make sure that your stone is nicely balanced. If you go in and you start an initial and it is too big, you may run out of space around the initial and then it won't look as nice. So I've done an S in the middle of this one. This is the initial for a young couple that just got married. So these make great gifts. You can do these as gifts. You could do them as, for housewarmings. And I may do one for my grandchildren. One of my grandchildren just bought a house, and I have another grandchild that bought a house earlier. So this is a nice stone to make for housewarmings or new homes. All right, I've let my stones sit and cure for 24 hours. It's best if you have the time to let them cure for 48 hours, but these I've just let cure for 24 hours. What I'm telling you about here is that if your pebbles or your glass beads fall off, which can happen, then I'm using that E6000, and it's a really, really good glue. It does have an odor though, so you want to make sure that you're working in a ventilated area if you're going to be gluing stones on. And I can see it looks like the stone did fall off, and I had already put a little bit of glue there. So I'm going to be able to put the stone back on. It's fallen down below me. And so I'm sticking it back on, and I've used the E6000 as the glue. And I really like the way our little smiley face turned out. That's going to be really cute in a garden, and your kids will love it, and you'll remember it for years as they grow. Okay, now I'm a little worried because this is that mold with the fluted edges, but it does seem like it's coming out. I'll know here in a minute if I can turn it out. There, it popped right out. It really turned out nice. I'm liking the bottom of it. And oh, look at the fluted sides. That's really cute. So I'm really, really liking this. I'm going to use this mold again. Now what I want to do is I want to finish my stepping stone off with some color, and I'm going to take a Sharpie. So here I have a green Sharpie, and I'm going to take the green Sharpie down for my stems, and you just go down into your indentation and run your marker down there. You can take it and run it back and forth. So this little green Sharpie marker is going to put the color down into our indentation. Now I have a fuchsia one, and the reason I did that is that I wanted the heart to show out, but I didn't want it to clash with the flowers. So if I'd used red, it would have been maybe too much red, and the flowers wouldn't stand out as well. So I like this little fuchsia marker, and it's just going to make a really light, little tiny design around into a heart. You can go over and over these until you feel like you've got the depth of color you want. And then we're going to seal this in. We're going to take a seal product over the top of our stone, and that's going to seal the marker color or the pin color into our stone. And it looks like we're just about ready. The last little bit that we're going to have is going to be our initial. And I'm going to do the initial in green, but you could do it in red if you wanted to. I'm just using green. I'm kind of trying to make sure that I balance my colors. And I'm still wanting my red flower and my little red bud to be the main color that you see when you look at the stone to start. And this is going to be just a really pretty stone for a gift. Now, what you want to do is when you have your stone finished, and I'm showing you that I was using a little Sharpie marker, you're going to want to put your initials on it. Anything that you've worked hard on that's a piece of art, you want to put your initials somewhere. And if you're giving this as a gift, you could put your initials, and you might be able to even put the year there. And then this is a couple that just got married in 2020. And so I'll put my initials, and I will probably put the date of their wedding somewhere on this stone. I'm brushing the stone off really well. You can also take a brush like a toothbrush and go around and brush it off, but I'm finding that this is pretty smooth, so all I'm having to do is just brush a little bit of dust off with my fingers. And we're going to be ready to go ahead and seal both of our stones. Now I'm working in my craft room because there's so much smoke outside, and when you do it in the craft room, you want to make sure that everything is covered, that you don't want to get the spray on. And so I've covered up, I have sewing machines, and I've covered up my sewing machines, and I have something on my table to protect the surface. I'm using a product that's a Krylon product, and you can find the Krylon spray that we're going to be using. You can find it at Hobby Lobby, Home Depot, or Lowe's, and it's basically a varnish. And this one happens to be a clear, but you could also find a matte varnish. This is going to be strong enough to seal in the colors that we've got on our stone, and also if I spray the little smiley face, it'll make the stones that are on there look really shiny and cute. Now, like I said, be careful and make sure that you have all your surfaces covered, and I also have a mask on. This does have quite an odor, so you're going to want to make sure that you're working in a ventilated area. And I'm putting just a nice even coat on it, and I'll let that dry, and our stone is going to be ready to put out in our garden. And so I think I'm going to show you again, if you can see it. It's a Krylon clear glaze. So that I enjoyed doing these stones with you, and I hope that you enjoyed too. What I'm going to want to do is put this in a CD form, and if anybody wants to buy one, you can let me know and I can get one out to you. If you enjoy doing these, hit the like button and the subscribe button, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.